shall be. We're back again with video 83. Today's video is called The Bread of the Presence, the Ark of the Covenant. So this is a big one. So let's take a quick look back at our binder for this moon ritual. I've added some new additions here. So you see there, let's get a good view of it. So we got Manaz in the middle, the fusion of two blissful energies, face to face, nose to nose. Face to face is a key word that's going to come up with our numbers here. So then around that we got the seed, right? Double kanaz for two wisdoms, male wisdom and female wisdom combining. And then we have the light, the surrounding light that's given off by that. It was Sewelu, is actually the rune for the sun. And there's three of them to represent the 3 months during the year when the sun is ascending in power, which now in our calendar would basically be April, May, and June, right? Between the spring and the summer solstice, equinox and the solstice. So basically 83, okay? Now, mostly I've been doing these just with the words, the values of the words themselves, but actually you can work a lot with the chapter numbers and verse numbers. And our first phrase today, our first two phrases come from the same verse, and it's Deuteronomy 8:3. And both these words have value 83, or phrases. First one is Yahia he Adam, which means the Adam lives, or the man lives. And the second word is He Lachem, means the bread, like as in Bethlehem, the city of bread, where Jesus is supposedly born in a manger, right? So bread has always been a reference to the flesh, right? And you don't want your flesh and your material concerns to become prideful and puffed up, and that's why they eat unleavened bread with no yeast, okay, during the Passover. Now, in traditional Judaism, they have this thing called the bread of the presence, and these are loaves of bread that are put in the tabernacle in the wilderness, right? So, and they're kept there for 7 days until the Sabbath, and when the Kohen eats them only on the Sabbath, right? And the Sabbath is the essence of this whole thing that we're coming at here, which is the union of the Shekinah, the divine bride, with God. And it only happens on the Sabbath, right? That's why the female's Zayin number is 7, and she represents the flaming sword at the gate of Eden, and the Shekinah, which is this fiery, electrostatic presence of the divine power within earth and within the tabernacle. So this bread, this is called showbread, or bread of the presence. And that word for presence is panim, which means the face, right? Face to face, just like our bind rune there. The two blissful, holy people meeting face to face in a sacred union, okay? So another phrase is altar of the Lord, which is, I think, Misbach Yahuwah, which means altar of the Lord, and that's pretty close to where the bread would sit, right? Then we got Holy Spirit, Ruach HaKodesh, which is it's a fiery electrical energy that shows the presence of the divine, the Holy Spirit. It's the fifth element, right? And this is what's created in the sacred union, okay? So I found some really interesting ones today, because I was looking at this Thelemic page, and they had some French gematria. So French words that total 83 is lumière, which means a light, something which illuminates, right? Then you have Arche de Dieu, which means the Ark of God, or the Arch of God. And then we have Sainte Face, which means the holy face. So this is just like bread of the presence, and all those words are totaled 83, just like the bread, okay? Then we got Ebinich, which means stones, and we have Ver Alamo, which means arches. So stones and arches, just like the keystone and the capstone of Christ, right? Up here, you know? So another key word is Hemelach, which means salt, okay? Now we had 41 in the marriage of Cana, the last video. 41, which is half of 82. had this word ali in Greek, which means the salt. This is where we get the word halides, right? And we know that salt can give off light, right? This lumiere. Now, if you're a ganja grower like me, you probably use metal halides and sodium. And halides comes from this word for salt in Greek. And sodium is also, we know it's a salt, right? But if you electrify it, it creates light, okay? So, part of this creation of light, okay, and it also, another very important word is golemi, which means a fetus, right? It's related to the word golem. So that's what we're creating with the sacred holy covenant. That's another word in Greek or phrase that totals 83 is hagia diatheke, which means the holy covenant, okay? Now another thing that people don't tend to know is that the Ark of the Covenant, right? The word for covenant is ketub, and that can mean ketubah, which is like a marriage agreement, a very specific type of covenant between the male and the female. And they both have to hold their end of the agreement or the partnership gets dissolved because they're equals. They both have to bring something to the table in this equal union that we're talking about, okay? So, Son of God is another 83. Heben Yahuwah, the Son of Yahweh. And as we said before, we got He-Galilei, which means the circuit, right? Circuit is a loop, right? But often we think of circuit like a circuit board or an electrical circuit, and that's exactly what we're getting at right here, is this electrical conductivity of the Ruach Kodesh, right? Which animates the salt, right? The salt in our pineal gland to create light. And when we get face to face like that, the two lights from the salt and the pineal gland combine to create the sacred fire of Kenaz, the holy seed, and the light, the lightning bolt of the Shekinah, the divine presence, okay? And our final word, I can't believe I finished them all so fast, but the final word is Hanukkah, which is where we have the Festival of Lights. And a lot of people don't know about something called the Hanukkah, which is a candelabra with 9 lights, okay? And I got something really special that goes with that. I'm gonna work on that, but Hanukkah, right? I think personally this relates to Enoch. We call it Enoch, but it's really Hanok, right? And this is also the person who was transformed into Metatron, the holiest and highest of all the angels, who is right next to God, right? So Enoch, Book of Enoch is probably the most profound Kabbalistic text of all. And so that's very significant if we come into Hanukkah, right? The Festival of Lights and that consecrated light, okay? So now, we're about halfway through. So now I got to backtrack and talk about what all this means. Okay, so the bread of the presence, right? There's a couple significant types of bread, you know, in the scriptures. And one is manna, right? So as they're wandering in the wilderness for 40 years, they subsist on this stuff called manna, which is almost like dew. It condenses down, okay? Now, in my opinion, this manna is a crystalline salt, okay? It forms all around here, okay? And it's called ormus. That's one name for it, ormus. And it has the power, because it's a crystal, it can store this energy, okay? And my thesis is that this manna is a crystalline salt that was put into the bread of the presence. And when they put it in this tabernacle on the Sabbath, it gets charged with the Shekinah, it gets charged with this presence, and that's why only the Kohen can eat it. Only the priest can eat it, okay? And what it is it's a way to store the Shekinah, this presence, inside the body. And it helps to complete the Galilee, the circuit, right? It creates a circuit in the body. Once you ingest it, it goes through it goes into your blood, these crystals, and it deposits up here. And it creates a superconducting loop inside the body, okay? So one effect of that, okay, so if we're talking about the Shekinah, which is often described as like this kavod, this glory, this cloud, right? That surrounds the Ark of the Covenant. It surrounds Moses when he goes to get the 10 Commandments. He's transfigured by this light, and he's like glowing white, okay? And what allows that, in my thesis, like, you know, is that it's this bread of the presence, right? So, and that's symbolically Christ, and that's symbolically the Eucharist, where you eat this bread and drink the wine, okay? That's symbolizing the male and female reproductive elements, the semen, is the bread, the white bread and the white stone, right? And the red is the menstrual fluids of the female, okay? This is Tantra exact same, okay? You have two channels. You got the left channel is red, okay? That's the female fire energy. And then you have the white channel, and that's like the milky masculine energy of the semen, right? And they fuse together in the Tantra to create the blue, which is in the middle, the lightning bolt, okay? See how all this connects? Super important, okay? And so what we're trying to point out is, okay, this arch, right? Ve'olamo, which means with arches, and ebinich, which means stones, right? The stone arch. The Masons stole these Ottoman arches, and the Templars went in and stole the technology of building arches. And this arch is the Ark of the Covenant, okay? In Freemasonry, the 7th degree is called the Royal Arch degree. Why is it 7? It's for the Shekinah, okay? Understand these things. Now, this is what we're all about, is trying to figure out what this is. How do we come in to see the face of God? How do we see the presence of God? It's within us. And in primarily, the most powerful way it's within us is within the sacred union of male and female, okay? And so this is what's been disrupted by this castrated cult of the Gauls and the Galli and these castrati and the Masons with their aprons. Okay, why do they wear an apron? Okay, first of all, mainly women wear aprons when they're in the kitchen baking bread, right? But the apron is to symbolize their castrated status. Okay, they're wearing a skirt and they wear an apron with an M, right? For Masons, right? It looks like a little M, and that's where the Gmail logo comes from, okay? It's that M. And then there's a G, right, for the generative force, or the genitalia, the sexual force of the G and the serpent, right? This is their big secret. It's a sex cult, right? But the problem with the sex cult is it's gay. It's a gay cult. It's a non-reproductive cult. Just like these Galli, also starts with G, right? These Gauls had their balls and cock sliced off. They can't do sex anymore. They're now eunuchs, okay? And they wear dresses, right? And so on. And so that's symbolically the way of preventing this holy union of the male and the female, okay? Symbolically. And having this non-procreative form of hermaphroditic or homosexual unions that the Masons are so fond of, right? And that's, okay, understand. And this is a controversial thing. But if you look back, okay, Ronald Reagan and George Bush were running an underage male prostitution ring out of the White House. It was in the papers. If you want to research, you can find out about it, okay? Ronald Reagan was a gay porn star, okay? He got blackmailed. He went from being Red Ronnie, the communist labor organizer in Hollywood, to suddenly becoming this Republican icon of conservatism. And he was an honorary 33rd degree Mason because they knew he was a gay man, okay? When you go to get initiated by the Masons, they put a rope around your neck. This is why I say they're all BDSM. They blindfold you and they put a rope around your neck and they start taking your clothes off. And they take all the metal off you so you can be magnetized and mesmerized by the Shekinah, that you don't know what it is, right? It's this magnetic field that they use for mind control, okay? And they're tying a rope around your neck, a noose, essentially, okay? That's the BDSM. That's like the choking and stuff. And you're in bondage, okay? You submit, you get in bondage, and you get on your knees, okay? In the ancient world, someone that was pulled around on a leash, like a dog, like a Canaanite, a fallen one, right? He was like a dog. And that dog, like somebody's bitch, when you're somebody's bitch, that means you're subservient to them. They got you on a leash, right? That's Masonry in a nutshell. It's male on male, dominance of submission, okay? In the homosexual community, they say you got tops and bottoms, right? So in the Freemasons, there's only one guy in the temple that can wear the top hat, and that's the worshipful master. He wears the top. He's the top, right? Get it? So we're blasting all that. I declare intent right here and now. We're blasting the Babylon system. We're destroying it. We're showing you the truth behind it, of the sacred union between the male and the female, elevating the salt, elevating the bread of the presence, unifying the wisdom, third eye, of the male and sacred female. We're giving the light of the sacred Hanukkah, right? We're giving the sacred light. We're bringing wisdom. We're bringing life. We're renewing life. And we're elevating the female, not bringing her down, not putting her top-down submission. She's equal. She's a priestess. She's in the Migdol, in the holy tower She's a sacred priestess. And she's the one that gives Christ the power and anoints him. And that's what we got to learn.